Karnak. Wow. Um, let's start with some basics. Karnak is the Arabic term for that area. The Egyptians called it the Neset Tawi, the throne of the two lands. Or it could be called Ipit Isit, the finest of seats. Pitsut, the most selected of places. So those are the terms that the Egyptians used to describe this place, which is about 2 or 3 kilometers outside of modern day Luxor. It was in the ancient capital of Waset, which the Greeks called Thebes, today is called Luxor in Egypt, North Africa. It is 1.5 kilometers in length by 0.8 kilometers in width, and it encompasses roughly 200 acres. So it's a massive site. It dates from the 12th dynasty, 1962, and then the doors closed in 380 ACE because of Theodorus, the emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire, banned paganism and temple worshipping. So all the pagan temples were closed. Now, that's Christianity, isn't it? That firm blade. Just remember when we looked at medieval Egypt and the Arabs invaded Egypt and they brought Islam to Egypt, they didn't insist that all the Christian churches were closed. They said, well, we're Muslims, you're not, you follow your faith, providing you respect Islam and that Islam comes first and this is an Islamic kingdom, and if you want to join us, hey, why not? Okay, so two different approaches. The Christian one was with the sword. Islam was about being reasonable and giving choice. So that's quite an interesting point. If you're going to go to Karnak, you're not going to do everything in a day. I've been taking groups of students to Karnak for over 30 years. You have to do it in 2 days. 2 days is really enjoyable. You could do it in 1 day, 8 or 9 hours, but believe you me, after 4 or 5 hours of not having a break, you will be finished. And then anything you see after 4 or 5 hours, it's just another this, it's just another that. You just get brain dead. You could think to yourself, well, I'll go to Karnak and do 2 hours and have a break. It's exhausting when you do that second bit, that last 3 hours. So you're better off going there and doing 4 or 5 hours one day and 4 or 5 hours the second day. So it's a 2-day visit. The precinct of Amun was most probably established during the reign of Amenhotep I, Amun-Ra, okay, of the 12th dynasty. And what does that mean? Amun-Ra means Amun is at the head. He was the first king of the 12th dynasty. The question is, was he the vizier who went to Wadi Hammamat to cut a sarcophagus stone for Montuhotep IV and had a divine experience where he was told that he would be the next king of Egypt? Was he the vizier who usurped his master Montuhotep IV and became the first king of the 12th dynasty? So that's up for debate. Now let's look at the god Amun. Originally he was one of the chaotic elements of creation, and he's part of the Hermopolis Ogdoad, part of their creation myths, one of 8 created creation elements that made up creation. The temple which Amenhotep I built at Karnak was right next door to a temple which was dedicated to the war god Montu. Now if we look at the history of Waset, Waset during the Old Kingdom was a trading post, and it was based on 4 villages. You had Armant, Tod, Medamud and Karnak. What these 4 villages had in common was they all worshipped the war god Montu. Then as the population grew, the trading post became successful, By the first intermediate period, Waset is now regarded as being an area of administration, a nome. So what did Amenet I build? Probably built an enclosure wall, a pylon to keep out chaos, and the Holy of Holies, which would have been made out of stone. Stone was eternal and mud was for the living. Sometimes they included a wavy pattern in the mud brick wall to replicate the waters of chaos. So what the temple provided inside was stability. What was happening outside of the temple was chaos. If we look at the original temple that Amenet I built, we should be right at the back and in the area in front of Thutmose III's memorial, most beautiful places. From that 12th dynasty, not much happened afterwards because you had the second intermediate period. But when the 18th dynasty came along and the new kingdom under Amun-Ra I, that's when Karnak started to grow. And it grew and grew and grew. And every king added something to Karnak because by that time it had become a state temple. So it was the capital of the new kingdom. And it was such an important deity by that time. Amun had become Amun-Ra in the 12th dynasty, and by the 18th dynasty he was king of the gods. So every king added something. Sometimes it was minor, sometimes it was major, and that happened right the way through the Ptolemaic period as well. So right the way up to then, and even the Romans added a little something to Karnak. That's how important it was. So when the Old Kingdom was created, going back to that third dynasty, most of the temples in Egypt were made out of mud brick. Probably the Holy of Holies was the only spot that was made out of stone. And what the temples relied on was the king to provide workers and the material to turn their structures in these mud brick structures into stone. So it relied upon that. In the Old Kingdom, the priesthood were responsible for the temples, but when Waset I came around, he was the second king of the 12th dynasty, he made a reform to the clergy. Now, he probably realised that what possibly happened to Egypt during the Old Kingdom is that the priesthood got too powerful and became a rival to the throne. So what he did was he introduced the manifestations of Ra, and he said that Ra was the Eastern Horus rising, the Ra Harakti, and that it manifested itself in many other deities. You had Amun became Amun-Ra, Bastet became the cat of Ra, Atum became Atum-Ra, Sekemket became the daughter of Ra, Hathor became the daughter of Ra, Batar was possibly the creator of Ra, so he's assimilated in that way, and then Isis had the secrets of Ra. The other thing was that from that time onwards, the Waset I, the second king of the 12th dynasty, kings were now responsible for the upkeep of the temples. So that was a big change. Why did he do that? Well, he was placing his hand firmly on that power base to keep it in control. Amenet I establishes a new deity at Karnak. So I've spoken about the other 4 founding villages that became towns. The towns united to become an area of administration and nome. And when Amun was installed by Amenet I, he is described as the hidden one. He's in his precinct and he's hidden. When Waset I comes along, it's a little bit different. Amun is now Amun-Ra. In 6 dynasties' time, he's going to be the king of the gods, but not right now. So I think Amenet established this new deity in Waset to put his stamp of authority on the kingdom. He wanted people to know that he was firmly in charge, maybe to give him some kind of security. Maybe it was because he was the usurper of Montuhotep IV. And a new festival was created in July because Amun of Karnak is going to do something highly unusual. Most of the deity gods stayed within their precincts. They never left their precincts. The only thing that happened was they came out of their Holy of Holies. They were placed onto a bark boat, which the priest carried around the open court, and then at the end of the day, their statues were placed back in the Holy of Holies. But Amun of Karnak is different, because in July he leaves his precinct, which is on the east bank. He travels across the River Nile to the west bank, and he visits the ancestors. So this festival is called the Feast of the Valley, and it happened in July. And he went over to the funeral temple of Montuhotep II at Delabachri. And then I think, there's no evidence for this, I think that after maybe 1 or 2 days of celebration there, they left the temple of Montuhotep II. They went out to Dra Ab el Naga, and they celebrated the ancestors with Montuhotep III and Montuhotep IV, which is where their funeral temples were. So this is a deity which is highly unusual in comparison to all the other major deities in Egypt at that time. Now, following this video are going to be 2 other videos. Day 1, Karnak. So you're going to go down the central Isle of Karnak. Day 2 is looking at all the outlying buildings within the precinct. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Karnak. Press your subscribe button, thumbs up, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.